31 years ago this month, the Hutu engaged in the fastest killing in contemporary human history as they exterminated 1 million Tutsi in just 100 days. In the second video in this series, let's ask the question, why did they do this? The first thing to bear in mind is that precisely because there were so many perpetrators involved, it would be a mistake to see them as a single entity driven by a single cause. Second thing to bear in mind is that many of them were just ordinary killers. In Scott Strauss's interviews with 210 perpetrators, he found people not mad, not sadistic, not particularly uneducated, not poor, and not ideologically driven. In fact, only 3% of them had even heard of the Hutu 10 Commandments that I mentioned in last week's video. The situational context was therefore pivotal, and this brings us on to the warlike environment that followed the assassination of the president on April 6, 1994. Hutu extremists declared the Tutsi the enemy of the state. Mass participation, therefore, was driven in large part by a mix of revenge, anger and fear. Even though the Tutsi could not have carried out such mass killing, the Hutu carried out such killings as a perceived form of self-defense, which crucially they viewed to be something the government demanded of them. On this note, it's important to stress that the vast majority of the Tutsi were unarmed and posed no threat at all. This brings us on to the final and possibly the largest explanatory jigsaw piece of them all: intra-ethnic enforcement and coercion. Hutu extremists used print media, the radio and mobile militias to create behavioural expectations. If you do not kill the Tutsi, you are the enemy too. Hutu extremists cultivated a culture of conformity as they beat, killed and raped the Hutu that didn't kill Tutsi and also Hutu that protected the Tutsi. Overall, the research findings resonate with studies of other genocides in that often genocides occur during war and often see so-called ordinary people do the most heinous acts. But this raises the troubling question: if you or I were a Hutu in Rwanda in 1994, would we have behaved any differently? It also begs the question, what was the international response at the time? And that's what we'll focus on in next week's video.